Studies show as high as 76% of people in America live paycheck to paycheck. In addition to that, approximately 40% of those people earn six figures. And I'm ashamed to admit that I used to be among that 40%. So today I'll dive into my past financial journey and challenge myself to figure out why I used to live paycheck to paycheck on a $110,000 salary while sharing all my mistakes along the way. You won't believe just how close I was cutting it, even though I made that much. So stay tuned. I've always been embarrassed to admit that despite earning a six-figure income, I used to live paycheck to paycheck. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially when people assume that your high salary automatically means financial freedom. But the reality is, it's not just about how much you earn, it's about how you manage your money. And let me tell you, I made my fair share of financial mistakes. Living paycheck to paycheck on a $110,000 salary is not only frustrating, but it's also stressful. You'd think that with an income like that, I'd be able to save, invest, and enjoy some financial security. But the truth is, I've been plagued by the same financial anxieties as those earning much less. And it's not until recently that I've taken a step back to assess my financial habit and realized just where I've been going wrong. So to break it down, I used to get about $2,800 per paycheck, or about $5,600 per month after taxes. So let's see how I would regularly let that monthly balance drop to zero or even beyond. One of the main reasons I used to live paycheck to paycheck is also a massive problem for most Americans. It's the cost of housing. And to top off the high salary, of course, I was making it in a city. I used to live in Denver, where the average house cost about $500,000 nowadays, and that's for a super tiny little shack in the middle of the ghetto. I, just like most of my Gen Z counterparts, couldn't afford a house anyway, so I rented. I had absolutely terrible experiences with the roommates in the past and figured that with my newfound high salary, I could definitely afford to live alone. But I could not have been more wrong, especially in a city. To start the paying off, my monthly rent was $1,750, and that's just the base. The apartment was really nice and was quite large for that class of units. It was a loft, so it had a spacious first floor with a living room, kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. And it also had stairs leading up to the loft area, which was kind of like an open bedroom style area with an additional bathroom. The design of the apartment would come back to bite me hard. This base rent cost quickly spun out of control because of other add-ons. I wanted to park my car in a carport to keep it protected and perhaps lower my insurance rates, which it did not do. And it actually did save me from getting damaged in a small hailstorm, but it set me back an additional $160 per month. Because of the layout of the apartment, I was on the top floor of the building. I had beautiful skylights in the ceiling that let in a ton of natural light, which was super nice, except for one other thing that it was letting in: a massive amount of heat. Combine that with an AC unit that was from the 70s that my landlord never wanted to replace, and the extreme heat of Denver summers, and I would sometimes pay up to $500 a month in electricity costs alone. The house I'm in now has way more square footage than that apartment, and my AC doesn't even cost a third of that. So already, straight out of the gate, we're automatically out $2,410 per month just on the cost of living. The next expense that would plague any irresponsible spender would be their car. And at the time, I actually had a 2013 Jetta that I had just paid off. How lucky. I never got any tickets or in any accidents, and my insurance was low too. So that sounds like a pretty perfect situation for me, right? Oh no. I would find a way to screw this up. Enter 2020, the world is going wild, and people aren't buying cars, and Ram starts offering absolutely wild deals on their new trucks. So what did I do? I brought myself on down to the local Ram dealership and got myself a $62,000 Ram 1500 Rebel with a $967 monthly payment. Sounds pretty stupid, right? Well, at the moment, I didn't think so because I had a plan. I was working on cell sites, and commonly these sites are on top of mountains with treacherous roads that are unmaintained and hard to navigate. I got my boss to approve me using my truck for work with my gas paid for, and I was allowed to charge 63 cents per mile. Considering I was traveling to Nevada and back every week, this was a sweet deal. The company would essentially pay for my truck, and I would even profit off of it. But of course, I was terribly wrong to think that life was so easy. For the next 2 months, because of what was going on with the world, I was working from home and not going to Nevada or anywhere else. To make a bad situation terrible, I got word that I was being furloughed, which eventually turned into a full-blown layoff. God bless corporate America. The next obvious thing someone who's good with money would do is invest some of that extra cash. And oh, I certainly did, but this is what really sunk my ship. You see, with someone like me now scraping by with huge costs of living, a super expensive truck, and expensive consumables like food and other items, I should really be taking the small amount of extra money I got and I should be putting it into low-risk investments that grow steadily over time. So is that what I did? Absolutely not. I decided that with all the newfound free time I had working from home, before I knew I was going to get laid off, I was going to learn how to day trade. That went as well as it goes for about 99% of the people who try to spontaneously day trade. This is what really sunk my ship. Any extra cash I had would be put into the stock market where I would make great gains and then lose it all in a stupid FOMO trade. My lack of financial planning had also been a major contributor to my financial woes. I've never been one to create a budget or track my expenses, mostly because I've always thought that I had enough money to cover whatever I wanted. But the problem is, when you don't have a clear picture of your finances, it's easy to get caught off guard with unexpected expenses or financial emergencies. And let me tell you, I've had my fair share of those too. Another issue I struggled with at that time was lifestyle inflation. I had taken a huge pay bump by switching companies and taking this new job at a big corporation, so as my income increased, so had my spending. I'd been upgrading my lifestyle to match my income with things like food, a carport, and an expensive truck without ever stopping to think about whether I would really need all of the luxuries I'd been buying. And as a result, I'd been left with a bunch of expensive habits that were hard to break. I'd also been guilty of impulse buying, especially when it comes to big ticket items. I was known to buy things on a whim without ever really stopping to think about whether I really needed them. And more often than not, these impulse purchases have ended up collecting dust in my closet or even the garbage. One of the most significant financial mistakes I've made is not saving enough. This goes hand in hand with the style of trading I decided to do with what little leftover money I had. I'd always thought that I'd get to it eventually, but that never ended up happening at that time. And as a result, I'd been left with a tiny savings account that's not even enough to cover a month's worth of expenses should an emergency happen, like getting laid off. But the turning point for me came when I realized that I wasn't alone in my financial struggles. I'd started talking to friends and family members, and I was shocked to discover that many of them were going through the exact same thing. And that's when it hit me. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't just a personal problem, it's a cultural phenomenon. Like I had said earlier, one study I found put it as high as 76% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Other studies have it coming in around 60%, but that's still more than half of the country living with these issues. The amount of people that are in that crowd who are making six figures show that it's not just a money problem for a lot of people, but it's a lifestyle problem. What really changed my perspective was when I started reading about personal finance and learning from financial experts. I moved back east to find a much cheaper apartment, I found new work for myself, and I got a financial advisor. I realized that I wasn't doomed to live paycheck to paycheck and that there were practical steps that I could take to turn my financial life around. One of the most important things that I did was I started tracking my expenses and creating a budget. I also improved by automating my savings. Looking back, I can see that my financial mistakes were not just about overspending or poor planning, but a lack of financial awareness. I didn't understand the importance of saving, investing, and creating a safety net. And I didn't know how to prioritize my spending or make smart financial decisions. The truth is that now, even though I'm making much more than I was when I was in that terrible situation, I don't spend nearly as much on luxuries or anything else that I don't need when I made even less. I made huge financial mistakes that basically forced me to move home and caused a really huge dip in my confidence. But the most valuable thing that I ever did was learn from those mistakes. I don't just buy a vehicle because they have some huge deal that probably isn't even actually a deal. I don't go on Amazon shopping sprees. And personally, what I think is most important is I have someone who actually knows what they're doing managing the majority of my savings and putting those into safe investments that will grow over time. And I even keep a little bit left over to keep day trading with because I really like doing that and I got pretty decent at it. But that type of trading absolutely is not for everyone. If you're not careful, that type of trading can ruin you literally overnight. So it's best to steer clear unless you can be extremely strict with yourself while doing it, and it's only a very small percentage of what you have in your savings. So my best advice onto that is if you have $50,000 in savings, don't put it into GME options. 99.999% of the time, it's not going to end well for you. The good thing is I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm committed to doing things differently from now on. I want to encourage all of you to take a hard look at your own financial habits and to start making changes that will set you up for long-term financial success. If you are struggling, especially if it isn't a lifestyle problem and it's just a straight up low wage problem, I really hope that you can find your way and you're able to reach financial freedom and happiness. Absolutely everyone deserves to live without the fear of being evicted or going without food. It's completely criminal that our poverty rates are as high as they are in this country. With that being said though, we definitely really have a big societal issue of trying to flex on your friends and peers, and I think that contributes to a lot of these same problems from people who make enough to not actually have to deal with these problems, but they still deal with these problems because they're poor decisions. But I am going to take a deeper dive into that in another video. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What are some of your own financial struggles, and what changes are you making to take control of your finances? And if you want to learn more about how so many other people are winding up in these situations just to impress their friends, be sure to check out my next video. If you enjoy the content and you'd like to support the channel, be sure to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. Best of luck to everybody with their financial goals, and thanks again for watching.